What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. You know we're going to talk about this Arkansas-LSU game. Arkansas winning 16-13 in Baton Rouge. What a great game. Physical battle. We're going to talk Danny West. We're going to talk with Danny West about recruiting, and we're also going to jump into a little bit about Razorback basketball, your questions as well, from your number one independent source on the Razorbacks. This is HawgSports Live. Oops. There we go. All over the place. Before we get started, I want to remind you there's plenty of ways to watch and listen. You can always, of course, tune in on Facebook Live. Be sure to follow the page if you haven't done so already with 80,000 other Razorback fans. Also available on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications bell so you're notified anytime we upload new videos. Also available on Apple Podcasts. Be sure to throw us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Let other people know what to think. Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere else you think I'd find your favorite podcast. HawgSports.com is just $1 right now for your first month at HawgSports.com. Be sure to go over there and check out what we've got for you. A lot of big basketball stuff coming up with Curtis Wilkerson. He's our main basketball guy, does a great job. And, of course, football and recruiting stuff. You need a VIP membership to check out all that stuff. Sorry about promoting the website. I just want to say this because I have one loyal listener, and I really appreciate you listening. This just made me think of this because he was like, it's kind of annoying with you promoting the website all the time on the show. And I just want to say, the only reason that I do this show is to promote the website. Like this show might make like minimum wage when I think about all that I put into it. It might be minimum wage that I make. Probably not even that. So if I ever stop promoting the website, it's because I stopped doing this show. That's the only reason. And we want you to look at this show and say, hey, this, I enjoy this, whatever. Let's go check out what he's got at the website. See if it's something I might be interested in. It's just $1 right now. So I just wanted to make that point. We're not doing this show because we're making a bunch of money on YouTube ad revenue. That's not the case at all. It's just we're promoting the website. That's the whole reason for all of this. This whole reason for the walk and talk. This whole reason for this show. I think my ad revenue on the walk and talk on Saturday was $24, by the way. So I'm just pointing that out. Okay? Not trying to make a bunch of money on this show. Trying to promote the website. The only reason. Appreciate you watching. I didn't mean to call you out or anything like that. I'm just saying. All right. Where do we start? We can start with basketball, but let's start with football. Well, I've got all my basketball stuff keyed up. Now let's go to football. You're here for football. Because if you're here for basketball, you'd be watching Hog Hoops Live with Curtis Wilkerson, which has been airing on Wednesdays. I'm not sure when we're going to air that this week because we got the basketball game on Wednesday. But be sure to follow Curtis Wilkerson at Kurt Wilkerson for all of his in-depth basketball coverage. He had a busy day on Saturday, and we'll get to some of that stuff here in a minute. But Curtis, obviously, that's why we have Hog Hoops Live. So Arkansas 16-13 winners over the LSU Tigers. Great game. A game I said before on the walk and talk is a kind of the style of game that I miss this day and age. Now, we got to see it, I guess, the week before with LSU and Alabama, and now in this one. What a battle. I never felt good after that first series, just like, man, they can't get anything going. They're just getting stuffed. The screen game isn't working. The screen game should be there, and it's not working. We talked to Sam Pittman a little bit about that again today, and, just mentioned – and you go back and watch that, it's like – Nobody blocks on this play. They're like Rocket Sanders, his only play, I believe it was Dalton Wagner's going out to block on the screen and doesn't hit anybody. Otherwise, it's a 7-yard pickup. And there are things like that a lot. It felt like it took like right when you get to that where they had Terry and Davis Price lined up in the Wildcat, which they apparently haven't done all year. They got a bad snap. Arkansas recovers it, and then Arkansas after that starts getting some first downs, has their first third down conversion. It took a little bit of a momentum swing like that to get Arkansas going, and really took maybe that time for them to figure out that KJ is the offense in this game. But that just goes back to what we say so many times in games like this, tightly contested games. It comes down to mistakes and capitalizing on the mistakes. And LSU had, 3 turnovers? That was a big one. But they had the turnover at the end of the game that cost them the game. I mean, that ultimately cost them the game. I mean, there were some things that, played out after that, obviously with Arkansas having to score, kicking a field goal. But Monteric Brown picking that pass off, that was the game. So it's all about battling, first of all, keeping the game in a position where you can win it, and then when it comes down to it, capitalizing on your opponent's mistakes. KJ was 15 rushes for 41 yards, the leading rusher and the leading passer, 18 of 25 for 142 yards. Traylon Burks was limited to 4 catches for 16 yards. I mean, they were just whatever was going to happen, they were taking Traylon Burks out of it. They were doing whatever they could with shadowing him, everything. And today, was it today? He was left off the Biletnikoff Award watch list, the finalist. He's not a semifinalist, excuse me, is what I should say. He's not a semifinalist. Maybe the most talented wide receiver in the entire country is not a semifinalist for the Biletnikoff Award because they don't look at, what the defense is doing to try to take away, what the defense is sacrificing, It's unfortunate because Arkansas isn't a heavy passing offense. It's just not how the team is built this year. But Traylon Burks deserves to be a semifinalist. His numbers are still absurd, even though LSU did everything that they possibly could to take him out of the game. Arkansas is ranked in the AP Top 25. Arkansas basketball and football are ranked in the AP Top 25 in the first time in 20 years. Arkansas is 21st in the AP, 22nd in the USA Today coaches poll. I would assume that since they made such a leap like that maybe they're inside the top 20 when the college football playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. They're number 23 in the ESPN.com power rankings, and they're not in the joke of an ESPN FPI, which has got to be if you're ESPN, you're looking at your football power index formula, and you've got to be saying we got to scrap this. We need a new formula. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, Arkansas is not ranked in it, that's one thing. The next thing is the number 25th ranked team in the football power index, a team that has lost 5 straight games, is Texas. They're 25th. Florida, y'all see what Florida did? They won 70-52 and celebrated like it was Club Dub. Florida is 22nd. Auburn's 6-4. Auburn's 21. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. You mess the formula up. Somebody put a plus sign where there's supposed to be a pi logarithm something in the formula. It's not right. I know math. I know how math works. Anyway, they got it right, and they're more closer to right in their football power rankings. I guess this is man-made though, so they actually can look at it. But Arkansas is 23, but they're behind Texas A&M, which has an identical record. And Arkansas beat Texas A&M on a neutral field and beat them, solidly. Wasn't like a blowout, but they beat them by 2 scores. Bowl projections are out for after Week 11. Arkansas playing Wisconsin. That'd be fun. In Nashville, the Music City Bowl. Now, we'd all like some warmer weather or maybe a dome stadium, obviously. But Nashville, I looked it up. I think it's December 30th when that game's played, maybe December 31st. But that time of year, the average temperature is about 50 degrees, so that wouldn't be the end of the world. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff. That wouldn't be too bad, as much as we wouldn't mind going to Tampa or something like that. That wouldn't be too bad. Nashville's a cool town to go to. Okay, I wanted to pop into basketball real quick before we get to Danny West. And we're going to get your questions, too, so go ahead and get those in. But Arkansas won 86-69 on Saturday. Kind of overlooked a little bit because of the football game, and it's Gardner-Webb. But Arkansas holds steady in the AP Top 25 at number 16 right now. And in the CBS Top 25 and 1, which is a poll I enjoy because we are CBS, Arkansas is 10th. I'm not so sure that they deserve to be 10th. I don't think that Arkansas right now would beat some of the other teams ranked similar because they've got so much gelling left to do. Now, we saw them go on a nice run when they had 4 returning guys with Stanley Amude in there. But overall, I think 10 might be a little bit high for them right now. That's going to be an unpopular opinion. Now, I think that they've got the pieces. I think they've got the pieces to do a lot of damage to have an excellent, even better than last year type of team. But right now, I don't know if they're top 10. They still got to gel. One of the stories I love that Curtis did is after Arkansas signed all their committed players now. That's Nick Smith on Saturday, which Nick Smith signed right in the middle of the football game, I guess. News cycle. Got to get a better idea of the news cycle for that NIL stuff. But Arkansas signed Nick Smith on Saturday, and then Sunday Darian Ford signed. So that was the fourth and fifth guys in the class. So they're all on board now. Arkansas has the number 2 ranked recruiting class in the entire country. Number 2. We can look at it real quick. Nick Smith is the number 8th ranked player in the country. Jordan Walsh is the number 26 ranked player in the country. Both those guys are 5 stars. Darian Ford is number 54 nationally, combo guard, 4-star. Barry Dunning out of Mobile, Alabama, is number 87 nationally, 4-star. And Joseph Pinion out of Morrilton is number 89 nationally, 4-star. And they're not done. Still Anthony Black out there that they have their eye on. Okay. I told Danny it'd be about 2:30 when I get to him, and that's what time it is. So we're going to jump over to Danny West, talk to him a little bit about Razorback recruiting, his thoughts on the game. Danny, I believe, is 8-2 on the year on predicting Arkansas games, and that also includes the point spread. So Danny has figured it out this year.
Hey, what's up, Trey?
How's it going, Danny? I was just telling everybody how you're 8-2 straight up and against the spread this year on Arkansas games.
Is that right?
Yeah, leading the pack.
I mean, I got to get better, man. Got to get better.
Got to get perfect.
Had a couple of man, I'd like to. I felt like I felt good about every pick I've made. I'll put it that way. At Auburn, kind of got away from me a little bit.
Yeah, well, that was a tough one. I mean, you figured returning home, and some things just didn't go their way. Danny, did you feel good about Arkansas's chances in this game, the way it was playing out that first quarter?
Oh, heck no, man.
Yeah.
No, I didn't feel.
You were just waiting. You were just waiting for the top to come off for LSU.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I will say this, Trey. Last week I jumped on here with you, and I questioned whether or not LSU would, if they would let go of the rope or not. Got to give those guys a lot of credit. I don't know what they're telling them down there, but that's an impressive job. They must really, really care about that guy. So hats off to them. It would have been really easy to lay down, but I thought the defense was outstanding. I sit here and rewatch the game. I may be on my 3rd time now, Trey, to be honest with you, but just highlights, not the full game. But Grant Morgan and Monteric Brown were just they were out of their mind, weren't they?
They played great, and Arkansas was manned up on those guys, and they brought more pressure than they had before. So it was good. They needed those guys, both those, and hey, Hudson Clark too. I mean, what did you see? Did you see Hudson Clark giving up a bunch of big plays? I didn't. I know everybody was like, "Oh, where's Ladarius?" But,
sure.
Yeah, I mean, everybody on defense played extremely well. I mean, you got to be pleased with that if you're a Razorback fan, Sam Pittman, or a player. But, yeah, you never felt good about it. You're just kind of waiting for things to go south, but they kept battling. And you're right about LSU not letting go in the rope. There's absolutely some credit that needs to be given there because, I mean, it's why we don't let our kids quit the soccer team in the middle of the season, when they're 5 years old. It's because when the first time you quit, it gets a little easier to quit that second time, and then all of a sudden you're just a quit. So in Arkansas, we saw that with Chad Morris. There's no question those players quit on those coaches. We're seeing it with Florida right now. Now, they battled back and beat Samford, but I don't know if there's much to say about battling back. They gave up 52 damn points to an FCS team and gave up more points in the first half than they ever have.
They've quit. Texas has quit. A whole bunch of quitters around.
Texas has quit so badly. I'll tell you 2 bad takes I had. That Bo Davis. I thought Bo Davis's speech might fire some people up a little bit, but it did not. They lost to Kansas, and then Dan Mullen. I was basically just saying, like, with Dan Mullen, like, everybody's he has one bad season and everybody's on his butt, but. And
much deeper than that, ain't it?
It's so much deeper than that. I mean, he's lost the team. I mean, there's no question. Except for the club dub party they had in the locker room after beating an FCS team, which is just absurd. Like, people need to have some. It's like no, you got to know the crowd.
The room a little bit.
Know the audience a little bit. Florida fans are going to see that, and any self-respecting Florida fan is going to be irate over something like that. Like, worse than losing. to celebrate a win like that.
He was done when he made that comment about recruiting.
Yeah.
I said it right then. He's toast.
And why did he say that? Did you go back and look, Danny? Did you listen to his
yeah.
comments about recruiting after the Georgia game last year?
Yeah.
All he wanted to talk about was recruiting. It was just a
sure.
stupid thing to say. It was a stupid thing to say. That, in a large way, stuff like that is what costs you your job. John L. Smith going, smile.
Yeah.
I mean, that
people don't forget that.
it was done. It was done when you told everybody to smile after getting your butt kicked against Alabama. Yeah. No matter what you'd done after that. You know, and he's trying to win the job, and I mean, it was done before that. I mean, they'd lost to Louisiana Monroe and everything, but anyway, like, you got to read the room, man. I mean, you can't be celebrating like that after a win over Portland State or a win over Samford or, you know, any of that. And, you know, it always happens too. You know, like, you know, when Brett was going through so much trouble, and a lot of people were like, yeah, he'll get one more year, he'll get another year to fix it. Not in this day and age. This day and age, it happens the year before you start thinking it's gonna go bad, because once the momentum's gone, once people start feeling like the program's headed in the right direction, then the administration is going to say, okay, we can't sell this anymore. What can we sell? We can sell hope with a new coach. Let's go the hope route. It's worth however many millions of dollars it's going to cost.
What do you do if you're Texas, man? I mean, you've tried everything now.
It's done.
Promote Bo Davis, as far as I'm concerned. That's the only guy down there with the guts to lead those guys. So
I don't think it'll ever.
Bo Davis.
Yeah, I am too, because now I've said before, I don't agree that he should have called everybody an MFer in the room, but
there's a time
the message.
And a place, Trey.
There's a time and a place. I'm just saying, like, from a recruit standpoint, like, you know, sure, I know one reason, like, you know. One reason probably, you know, Hunter Henry's been pretty vocal that he wouldn't have come to Arkansas if Bobby Petrino was head coach, and it's probably because he didn't want to be called an MFer, or, you know, his dad probably didn't want his son called an MFer. So I'm just, you know, so I'm just saying, like, from that standpoint, you know, but otherwise the message still rings true, what he said. And Texas has got some problems, and they really need to, like, and do what he said and encourage some players to move on out of there and bring some guys in with a different attitude, because in my opinion,
you can't replace the coach, so that's the only chance you've got left. That's the only option you've got. You've got to clean house personnel wise.
You're absolutely right.
Sark after one.
But I do wonder, like, and I think back to, like, when Bobby Petrino, his first year, and, you know, Arkansas went through that stretch where they played Texas and Alabama and Florida and just got their butts kicked over and over again. Texas just slaughtered them. And Joe Adams said, Coach, it was like they were mad at us. And I remember reading an article from our Texas side on Rivals, and it called Arkansas the dumpster fire that is Arkansas football. And I remember thinking, it's his first year. You know, he's totally changing the system and everything, and you're going to call it a dumpster fire? And to me, that was totally different than what Texas has going on right now. To me, what Texas has going on right now is a lot of quitting. And Arkansas never really quit that year. They were just young, inexperienced, transitioning, you know, trying to figure some stuff out, playing a bunch of young players. Texas, to me, there's no excuse ever for losing a game in Austin or anywhere really, but especially in Austin, to Kansas and what Kansas football is. No offense to your wife. I know she's a Kansas girl, but
she was fired up about it.
I bet.
I was happy for her. But,
I sent you a rock chalk.
You did. I passed it on.
Good.
I passed it on. But the 2008 Arkansas team, you think about the second half of that year, you had a 1-point loss to Kentucky, a 2-point loss to Ole Miss, you beat Tulsa.
Right.
You barely lost to South Carolina. Mississippi State was a 3-point game. And then you won the
miracle on
season
Markham
finale.
too.
You go out on a high note. And Texas is nowhere near, you know, trending in an up.
They're not. It's not the same. Yeah, I mean, Arkansas. The first half of Arkansas' season that year, and the second half were two totally different. And it wasn't like there wasn't strife and turmoil. I mean, you remember Casey Dick got benched for his brother. I mean, there were still people that didn't know how they felt about this Bobby Petrino guy. But I remember they came in they were on everybody's ass, like, start to finish. And they carried a lot of momentum into the offseason. I remember the first play the next year was a touchdown return by Dennis Johnson, very first play of the season, which I always think is a good indicator of how the season's going to go. I think this year it might have been a fumble, though, was it? What, didn't Ladarius fumble it or something?
Yeah, I think
and they got it.
They put it on the ground.
Yeah. So maybe not always a great indicator.
It turned around, though. It turned around. I can't believe where they're at right now. So
it's insane to say, and I keep saying you'll drive yourself crazy, but man, if that 2-point conversion against Ole Miss goes in, or not goes in, but is completed, they're in control of their own destiny right now, and they're playing Alabama for the lead, in the Western Division. Right. It's that close. I mean, it's that close.
Still probably wouldn't feel much better about the chances this weekend. I don't know about you, but still, to be in that position in mid-November, I mean, I guess it'll be later November on the 20th this week. So, yeah, that'd be a good spot to be in.
Hey, but if we're doing something, Danny, that you're not supposed to ever do, which is compare scores, LSU almost got them in Tuscaloosa, and Arkansas beat LSU. Texas A&M got them, and Arkansas beat Texas A&M. So, therefore, Arkansas is better than Alabama, right?
You said it.
That's simple as that, man. But you can't do that because
total offense, top 5 total defense, top 15 turnover margin, and number 1 on third down. Good luck. Go get them, boys.
Yeah, go get them. Hey,
this is their worst team and maybe ever besides Saban's first one down there. Go get them.
What's my favorite Houston Nutt quote?
Somebody turn up the heat. Gotta have it.
Haterade. No, it's that ball don't bounce straight up and down. That's my favorite one.
You're right. You never know.
Yeah. Well, no self-respecting media person or talking head or anything is going to predict Arkansas to win this one. But things happen in college football all the time. Crazy stuff happens. When we look at that top 25 and the top 10 or top 5 teams, and every year you're just like, oh, they got no chance. But you know what? Only one of those teams are going to come out. And a lot of times it's a one-loss team that loses somebody they shouldn't have and stuff like that. I mean, Alabama did. Nobody thought Alabama was going to lose at Texas A&M right after they had lost to Mississippi State, which Mississippi State, that's looking like a strong win right now. I mean, that was a heck of a comeback.
Yeah, that's the one unfortunate thing about Arkansas. They caught good Bo Nix on the wrong day. He's so up and down, and Mississippi State, they were fortunate enough to catch the bad version of Bo Nix, I think. So that's a big help. But
nobody's catching him the rest of the season, unfortunately for him. He's out the rest of the year. What's kind of funny, Danny, we're sitting here and we're talking. We haven't even got to recruiting, but we're talking about what's going on in the world of college football. And the reason that I'm able to do that today is because I didn't travel. I talked about this before. I didn't make the trip to Baton Rouge. I'm not saying I'm not going to make road trips, but I didn't do it this time. And there's always kind of one game a year I do like to stay back for. And I watched it on my big screen at home. My wife was gone. My daughter was gone. And I watched football start to finish all day. And I have not been able to do that really. Like when it's a away game, and I talked about this, and people are like complaining about having to do your job. I'm not so sure that I don't do my job better when I don't have to travel to these games.
Oh, I totally agree. I tell people all the time, if Trey didn't want me to go to all these games, I probably wouldn't. I love being at home. Man, you're probably 90 seconds behind on average, I've found. Yeah. That's okay. You're gonna catch up with the rest of the world, but that stats page, it's a really big help. It's a lot more detailed, and it's you can have that available to you from anywhere. So I was in Northwest Missouri, admittedly, over the weekend, covered a game from up there. So not a bad day for me either.
Now home games are totally different to me, because it takes me 20 minutes to get there, so I can sit here and watch football all day until an hour and a half before kickoff or whatever, the Razorback game, and then I'll go there and watch the games from in there. I mean, that's a totally different deal. But the road games, just all the travel you have to do. Plus, we have basketball starting up, so Curtis had to do basketball stuff. I had to pick up a bunch of extra slack for some of our football content that I don't know if I would have gotten it all done if I had to travel to Baton Rouge and back. So, but it was nice. I will say it was nice.
You're always pretty wiped on Sundays when you get back from somewhere. Yeah. So, and I can't blame you. I would be too. That's a lot of travel. So I actually like it better when you don't go on the road. It kind of makes everything a little smoother for all of us, I think. So
it does.
Maybe stick around, Biddy. Stick around.
We'll see. There's places like I'm never going back to Auburn. Screw that place. They put that terror. I've never felt so out of place, like unable to follow a game before than I have in Auburn's press box. It's awful. They put it in they moved it to the end zone on the same side as their big screen. They don't have a big screen on the other side, and it's just you can't. It's just hard to cover the game. It used to be, it used to be right there looking down, pretty close, right in the middle of the field, I guess. And I don't expect to have it like right in the middle. I just don't want to be off in the side in the end zone where, as a media person, it just makes it difficult to cover, and you can't get any kind of replay or anything. It's just, I thought it was awful.
I'm afraid that's where the way stadiums might be headed, though, Trey.
Yeah, maybe.
You think about some of the new ones. I hope not. But
Georgia's got a great press box. Georgia has a fantastic press box. Arkansas has a fantastic press box. We are very lucky to have that, and I don't know if that'll always be that way. But, I've also thought about, Danny, sometimes maybe if I go on these road games, instead of sitting in the press box, just going down, getting a ticket and having the ability to go into the press box when I need to, but going and sitting in the stands the whole time because, you also, like, I mentioned there was nobody home, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the first key right there.
Yeah, there was nobody to say, Trey, calm down, or, language, or, any of that kind of stuff. And you can't say anything in the press box, It's just, aside from just like, hey, man, Arkansas really needs to get this first down right here. This might be the ball game. Instead of like screaming.
You and I seem to have quite the body language in there when it gets tight.
Yeah.
Things get a little bit tense.
Yeah. All right, Danny, I've taken up a lot of your time, but what can you tell us about what's going on here with recruiting?
Sure, recruiting. Real quick, not a ton with the 22 class. It's wrapping up pretty soon, in my opinion. I've actually been getting a little bit of a head start on our National Signing Day content on December 15th. So that's right around the corner, less than a month away. Looking ahead to next week, going to have a few, probably several big-time visitors in town, but a few that I'm already aware of. And Braxton Myers, a big-time 4-star defensive back out of Texas. Charles Jagusa, big-time 4-star offensive lineman out of Illinois, of all places. Shout out to, Myron Cunningham. You got him from Illinois. And Marquise Deal, another offensive lineman out of Texas. So just a few names to kind of get us started looking ahead to next week. It's going to be an interesting deal with the Friday game, of course. A lot of kids being knocked out of the playoffs. Maybe it opens up more opportunities with a 2:30 kick. Should set up pretty nicely if they want to bring in, a solid group of visitors. I think that's one of the best chances they've had all year. So looking forward to that one. Should be a pretty good group.
So it feels like we're almost just full steam ahead on 2023 now. I mean, I asked Sam Pittman the other day about it, and, with so many guys counting ahead, maybe they have one spot left or something, but I guess they could always possibly borrow. Can't you just borrow forever, like credit card?
Yeah,
can you just continue?
You can always borrow ahead.
Yeah,
you can. Now, sometimes it's not pleasant because eventually you might have to pay for that, but it's kind of like a credit card. Don't put too much on it. So
well, they borrowed ahead 3 people, at least 3 of them in the last class. So
my thinking would be set the number for the amount. If it's going to be 3, then do it every year. So you never have to play catch up. I would set it and leave it.
Yeah,
but
that's a good
to
point.
answer your question, they could hold, pull a few from next year's class, as far as I know.
All right. Anything else to add, Danny?
I'm good, buddy. I think I'm good. That pretty much covers a slow recruiting week so far.
Yeah, but it's going to pick up here soon. We're not too far away from – when is the early signing period?
That's December 15th is the first day, and, of course, it's a 3-day period. They can sign up till midnight on that Friday. So
usually everybody
December
jumps
15th.
In, though, on aside from maybe a few guys who hold out who want to have their own special day for an announcement or something like that.
Could still be looking at a couple in January, so I'm not saying the class will be completely done in December, but I would call it 90-95% done.
All right, Danny. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, brother.
All right, everybody, that's Danny West. Again, you can follow Danny at Danny West 24/7 on Twitter. And if you want to read his content on HawgSports.com, you will probably need a VIP subscription for most of that content. Again, it is just $1 right now at HawgSports.com. And while I'm mentioning that, be sure to sign up for our free text alerts and our newsletter. You can go to HawgSports.com. At the top right, if you hover over your name after you log in and stuff, you should see how to access that. Both those are free. We send all of our free content on our newsletter to your email inbox every morning. And anytime there's like big breaking news, like maybe a kickoff time is announced or there's a big commitment or somebody signs or something like that, and then we usually send a newsletter. But for anything that's breaking, no matter what it is, like a commitment or kickoff time, any of that kind of stuff, we also send that directly to your phone. We don't spam you with anything other than just sending breaking news. And that's not every day. If there's nothing happening, we're not going to send anything. But there might be a week or two go by without any breaking news. But generally, when there is, we're going to send you a text alert and give you a link back to the article if you want to read it. Okay. Let's see what we got for questions. We've gone about half an hour here. Seems about right. Put about 10 minutes worth into questions here. And kicking it off, this person says there's no sound, but everybody else seems to think there is sound, so maybe that's you, Randy. Great. One time I was just like, man, why can't I get any sound going? I had my headphones plugged into the side. Jason Norden says, was the illegal formation call on 4th down legit? I don't remember if it was legit. I assume it was. I think they said Knox maybe wasn't lined up on the line of scrimmage. The one that really kind of bugged was like Simeon Blair. When Simeon goes up to the line, when they were called for, too many men in the neutral zone, I think it was in the first half, or too many men, not too many men in the neutral zone. Somebody was lined up, in the neutral zone, and it was Simeon, and, he never looked at the ball. He just went up, and the guy's lined up off the line of scrimmage, and he goes up on press on him, and you wish somebody would have said, hey, Simeon, get back. But the illegal formation, I need to go back and look at that one because I watched the first half yesterday, and then I watched the second half after the game Saturday, so I need to go back and look at that. Corey Weir says, great show. Enjoy the work you put in for Hog Contact Fun here. And Danny Keith, Wilk, when you have them on. Appreciate that, Corey Weir. Corey Weir, I guess. Yeah, W-E-I-R. And again, I'm not sure when Curtis will be doing his show because there is a basketball game on Wednesday. I guess Thursday. Maybe we double up and have 2 shows on Thursday with the primer and the by the way, primer. This is another complaint I keep getting. So I think there's some people that have it confused, like that I'm saying, like talking about like a textbook style thing where it's pronounced primer. But if you notice the font, it's like paint. It's a primer. Like the primer, that's a metaphor. The primer you put on before the actual paint goes on, which the paint is the game. The primer is the primer. We're priming you for the game. So it's not primer. Just to make that clear. Because I have had like a few people like, hey, just want to point this out to you. Respectfully, love the show, but it's pronounced primer. But no, we're talking about primer, the paint, the pre-paint. Jeremy, I'm not even going to try it. FARQUHARSON. I always watch these, but this is the first time I've actually been able to watch live. Appreciate you joining in live, Jeremy. Brian Webb says, glad you survived your spooky walk and talk. That's part of the charm of the walk and talk. I have to, there's like the aspect of, I was talking about this in the media room actually today, but there's the aspect of me getting lost in the stadium a little bit. People seem to enjoy that. And I always confuse myself because I'm, looking in the camera walking, I'm like, did I get off on the right level? So I always confuse myself on that. And then, almost getting hit by a car when I crossed the street there at the end. And this one was just kind of like, I don't know, I was more thinking like more than I'd get abducted or something. It was like a bear comes out. I guess bears are bears hibernating now? I don't know. But yeah, it was, I think this week, because I'm not going to Tuscaloosa either, I think this week I may drive over to that area and turn my car on and shine my lights and then walk back to my car. I think that might be the ticket to get me lit up. I had a flashlight in my pocket the whole time, and it looked too Blair Witch. Matt Bounce says, I'm still confused why on 3rd down we aren't just throwing Burch's direction and letting him go find it. I agree with that. He's going to cash 50% of the time, which is much better conversion rate than these dink and dunk 1-yard passes on 3rd and 8, which, the things that I didn't agree with mostly on the screens, on those play calls is like, why go to the short side of the field with Blake Kern? Why is that the guy that you're screening it to? Because the screens should have worked, and they didn't. So obviously you got to start thinking, well, maybe we should just abandon this. It's not working. They're not blocking it. There were times, where I mentioned Dalton Wagner should have had a block. Myron Cunningham should have had a block. They make those and you get a nice play. But they weren't. It just weren't blocking him. And Pittman is the one that mentioned that. So I go back and watch. So anyway. How many points against Alabama? I don't know. I'm not ready to go there yet, Bob. I do think that I'm not saying Arkansas is going to win, but I feel like it's their best shot at Alabama in a number of years this year. And a large reason because Arkansas is better, not just because Alabama's not quite Alabama. Georgia's more Alabama than Alabama this year. Tim Eskew says, I'll have to watch this on YouTube. Be kind, Mr. Biddy. I haven't even brought you up, Tim. But Tim did say Tim doesn't like me blaming the officials. But and I appreciate you watching, Tim. But I'm not Sam Pittman. I'm not a player on the team. I'm covering the team, and I see things that, to me, are concerning with SEC officiating. I'm not blaming the officials for a loss. In this case, Arkansas won. I'm just saying, like, when I see something that, like, needs to be corrected, and it's not just Arkansas, but, like, that Kentucky game. The Kentucky game last week where the Tennessee dude, almost rips the guy's helmet off. And the refs don't call it. That's, to me, is a level of incompetence. Like, you don't see that kind of stuff in the NFL. And to me, the SEC should have the second best officials next to the NFL in the world. And it's not even close. And we see week after week in this conference where officials make massive choices, game-changing type of flags that are not warranted or are seen incorrectly. And part of the reason is because they don't have full-time referees, and they're not held to the standard of accountability that they need to be held to. And it's something that we've been complaining about for years and years. And it's not just – I'm not just like pointing out like Arkansas – you haven't heard me say Arkansas has lost a game because of the officials. Now, I pointed out instances where the officials didn't help, or maybe they played a factor in many factors, and I know you can't leave it up to officiating. I know you got to take care of your own business, but like against Auburn, the end of the game last year, that was decided by the officials making awful calls. Awful calls. And again, I know, like, you have to assume the officials are going to make bad calls, but that still doesn't make it right. I'm not blaming referees for officiating, but I'm going to point out when I see something that I think is egregious or just poorly what was the game I was watching the other day? I think it was Auburn. No, who was it? It was an SEC team. But anyway, there's a miscommunication on the route, and the quarterback throws it. The wide receiver doesn't break on it. There's nobody like in danger of sacking him, and the referee throws a flag for intentional grounding. That's just a poor application of the rule. And you don't see that. Now, I'm not saying the NFL's perfect. They obviously make mistakes. Anybody in New Orleans knows the Saints probably were cost a chance to go to the Super Bowl. But they are so rare that you say, you know what, mistakes are going to happen. These guys are doing a good job. They're humans. They're going to make mistakes. But to me, it's just like every single game you watch, and so many times it happens at critical moments where the game is decided. And in that Auburn game this year, I'm not saying the refs cost them, but like there's no way in hell that should have been called a pass interference on 3rd and 6 where Arkansas had to have a stop. They had to have a stop there. Otherwise, the game is over. They had to have a stop. And they threw a pass interference flag on a ball that's 7 feet out of bounds. That doesn't make me like a victim mentality. Again, I'm not Sam Pittman, and I'm not a player on the team. I'm a media person covering the Razorbacks, maybe with something more invested than a regular media person. I don't know. I don't know how you want to view that. But I try to call it like I see it on everything. And that is something that I take a lot of pride in. I want to get on here and tell you what I see. I don't even think about it like, how am I going to say this? How am I going to construct this for people to make this easier to digest? I'm just going to come out and say it. And then when I'm done, or before I'm done, one way or the other, and both, I'm going to go see those people that I'm critiquing and that I'm having an opinion about, and I'm going to talk to them face to face. And a lot of times they're going to know what I've said. And there are a lot of people out there, talking heads, that have the strongest. Go out and find people on radio or TV or something that have the strongest, angriest, most pointed opinion about a team or a player or something like that. And I guarantee you they never leave that studio. They never go to a press conference. They never talk to anybody face to face. I guarantee you, anybody you're out there like, this guy is a realist. He's got a super negative opinion. He's always complaining about something. I guarantee you he never looks a coach face-to-face, eye-to-eye. He never looks a player face-to-face, eye-to-eye. And that's something – I'm not, bragging. I'm just saying that's what I do. That's what I try to bring to the table here, okay? I'm going to tell you how I feel about something. I'm not going to try to construct something. I'm not going to try to, have some hot take to get a bunch of views. I'm just going to tell you how I feel, and then I'm going to go talk to those people face-to-face, sit in the press conference and ask questions. What happens to Frost? I think Frost got the vote of confidence. I don't think they're firing him. Nick McMinn says, in my humble opinion, I think this was the best defensive game plan from Barry Odom so far. I love seeing the blitzes. And I'll say this because Kendall Browse has caught a lot of flack, but look at Alabama against LSU. Alabama put up 20 points against LSU. Alabama at home. It's not always – again, those screen passes, they probably should have worked. Now, maybe they should have come off of them a little bit sooner, but they probably should have worked. A lot of it's sometimes just the other team. LSU's got talent. I don't care if they're missing a bunch of players or not. They got talent. Don Eldred said, for the game announcers, I think the remote coverage has been as good as in person. For the game announcers, I think remote coverage has not been as good as in person. Have you noticed any difference in your coverage? Not sure what explains the difference. For the game announcers, now the game announcers need to be at the game. I think fully 100% you can absolutely tell when they're not there. But they were there Saturday. I thought Tom Hart and Cole Kubelek did it. I thought they did a good job covering the game. But basketball, football, you can absolutely tell when they're not there because they'll have poor takes. They'll get players' names wrong repeatedly. But I don't know if that's been the case for football this year. I think they've been – I can't remember a game where they weren't there this year. Jonathan Parker says, I think Trey Knox got hosed on the unsportsmanlike call and the spot for first down on the flip. Now, I will say this, and I agree with Sam Pittman, but I will say this. You can't give the refs any reason whatsoever to throw a flag because it kind of goes back to that thing, the refs the refs are going to be the refs. But I still fully believe that, first of all, they should have thrown a personal foul flag against LSU because that dude had him by the collar 5 yards, 6, 7 yards out of bounds, feet, I should say, not yards, out of bounds, and wouldn't let go of him, shoving him into their own bench. And then the ref goes with it. I mean, he's just looking at Knox the whole time and then guides him through 3 LSU players, has his hand on his back, guiding him through a crowd of LSU players. Now, did he go through a little boisterous? Sure. I don't think that he was going to check the dude that hard, but Roy, if you notice, the defensive tackle probably outweighs him by 80 pounds. Roy bounced back into him, and he took a little, kind of a bounce off like that, and, personal foul, which shouldn't have been thrown. If it was thrown, it should have been offsetting, which is what I said initially. But that's a drive killer right there. But you can't give him any reason to do something like that. But at the same time, what's he supposed to do? Just stand there and let him just pinball it and just shove him out of bounds? One of my favorite lines from Karate Kid 3 is when Danielson refuses to fight and the dude goes, you don't have to fight. You can just stand there and let him kick your ass. Kevin Medlin says, is Odom getting a head coach job next year? It's possible. I don't know what job he would get. I mean, both those guys have come up as possibilities for head coaching jobs, and that's going to happen as long as they're here. I don't think that either one of them will leave for a position job, for a coordinator job. I mean, I don't know. It would have to be a pretty blue blood situation, but I think for both of those guys, their next move out of Arkansas is probably a head coach job on some level. Ethan Roberts says, hey, Trey, I've seen too many people calling for Browse's head, and it really irks me. What are your thoughts? I just gave my thoughts. I think that, I don't expect perfection from Kendall Browse. I think he's a really, really good offensive coordinator. And, again, are we calling for Bill O'Brien's head at Alabama because they only put up 20 points against LSU at home? Is Bill O'Brien suddenly a bad coach? Lance Walker says, seems like opposing defense trying to get under Burks' skin by roughing. Oh, there's no question they're getting. You can see him a little bit more being a little more aggressive, shugging people off of him and stuff. But it seems like opposing defense trying to get under Burks' skin, rough him up a little bit when out of bounds. Now, out of bounds, something's got to be done about these kicker nets because I've seen a couple of times this year where players run into that kicker net. And I think what happened with Burks, I couldn't tell 100%, but the metal that goes around, I feel like maybe his knee got kind of bent underneath it, like the metal was right here in his knee, and I think that's what maybe got him a little bit. Adam Johnson said, are we going to have 4 D linemen against Bama this weekend? The depth chart looks like that's what it is showing. Don't pay attention to that. First of all, that depth chart doesn't mean anything. But they ran both against LSU, and I think it's the first time we've seen them. They practice both, but it's like it's either been the 3-man front or the 4-man front. And this time we saw the 4-man front and the 3-man front. We saw some more pressure also. So I think it probably makes sense against Alabama to do that again, to mix it up. Mark Douglas says, I see so many players on other teams do little dances and other extracurricular celebrations, no flag, it irritates me. I totally agree with that, and the referees are also dramatically inconsistent when it comes to celebration. I've seen players celebrating with fans and no flag. Ole Miss 2 times on 2 Ole Miss touchdowns against Arkansas. Apparently you can spin the ball, and that's fine to do now too. No, it's not. It's not fine. You can't. It's against the rules to do that. And it's also been pretty inconsistent on targeting. Like sometimes, early in the year, it's like there was this big emphasis on targeting. Now it's like, we're going to call. Did you guys see the Auburn hit? I guess technically it's a head or neck contact. I didn't think it was forcible contact, but the Auburn defender hit Will Rogers on a sack. And it was a huge play in the game. Face mask to face mask. Face mask. He didn't spear or lunge like that. Didn't lower the crown of his helmet. Hit him face mask to face mask. Made a great play. And it's targeting, and he's ejected for the game. And it's a first down for Mississippi State. I just thought that was – whatever happened to see what you hit? I don't know. I get player safety and everything, but man, that's a tough one right there. To me, when you're talking about in that area, I just don't see how that's targeting. Are you trying to hurt him? No, you're trying to tackle him. That's it. Will Bonham says, Trey, what does this year remind you of 2006 season at all when we upset number 2 Auburn? I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of been a different year. I don't know if it reminds me of any year specifically. Maybe 2014, but they're better than the 14 team. The 14 team should have won some games. 14 teams could have beat Alabama. They played with them at one point. They should have beaten Texas A&M. Maybe it reminds me of that team a little bit better, but maybe on the right side of a few of those games more than the other team was. That team also, blanked LSU, blanked Ole Miss. Won 7 games total. Will Bonham says, hey, Trey, does this year remind you of the – I just said that, didn't I? Josh Wilbank says, I think Sam Pittman is the man for Arkansas. He certainly seems like it now. And Jeremy says it's pronounced Farquharson. Jeremy Farquharson. Will Bonham says we're going to beat Bama by 19 points. I'll have some of what you're having. Gary Davis says, love the defensive variety in fronts blitzing this weekend. Incredible. That begs the question, where has this variety been all year? I think it depends on the team that you're playing. They didn't have as mobile a quarterback as Arkansas has faced most points. They didn't have a team, like Mississippi State that's just throwing it. It just made sense, Rob Hopper says Blair Witch. Yeah, Blair Witch. It's been a while since you've seen that one. Jimbo James Hamilton says, do you have a report on hurt players? I don't. Pittman's not going to really answer on hurt players. Tyson Morris went back in, and Devion Warren did too, I believe. But I don't remember anybody else going down that were didn't allow him to go back in. Gary Davis says, the offensive play calling this weekend was terrible. They were blitzing the middle linebacker every play with a 5-man front, which meant it should have left the middle of the field wide open. What it should have done is left the screen game open. When they're blitzing like that, screens and draws. I don't think it should have left the middle of the field wide open. I mean, I guess on passing, there's some times where they could have thrown it and, as you say, give it 50-50 to Traylon Burks. But the screen game should have worked. It didn't because they didn't block it up well. But if they do a better job blocking, then they kill them on the screen all day long. John Sullivan says, I wish they would have just had KJ catch and throw instead of the play fakes facing that much pressure. Robert Murphy says there was tons of concerning things in the game, bad spots, no call. There was a few times where I thought the spot was really poor. No call on Adams, that other side calls. Kevin Venable says, what is Catalan's status? Is he going to make it back to the field? No, Catalan's done for the year and probably done in a Razorback uniform. He even tweeted during the game that Arkansas is in good hands with Miles Slusher, which kind of makes me think that maybe easing people into his decision, which I can't blame Catalan. I think, he's going to get drafted. Mike Posey says, I don't know why the spot of the ball on that third down play was not reviewed. He landed on his back. The line began. I agree. I thought it was a first down too. Keith Bulger says SEC refs suck. Knox said the first down, easy, no review. Sam should have challenged. Josh Wilbank says, I think the refs got something against the Razorbacks because we get bad calls just about every game. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, Josh. What I do think is that more so there is a level of incompetence than like a vendetta against Arkansas or something like that, okay? Because I see it all the time, game after game. And that's something, it's pretty universal in this conference. Now, you can say there's an Alabama privilege and all that kind of stuff, and maybe there is. Maybe Alabama gets a little bit of benefit of the doubt. It feels like it sometimes. But I really think overall there's been a level of incompetence that shows up too much, and it's accepted. And it's almost like the SEC office just kind of, we'll just, it'll blow over, next news cycle or whatever, it'll blow over. I think this is a mark on Greg Sankey, to be honest, because it's so obvious in this day and age with all the cameras and all the replay and stuff and, people's access to opinions and stuff like that. And Sankey has done some really good things for this conference, but this is a black eye to me for him to not do something. Until he does something, I think he's getting this wrong. And I don't hate Greg Sankey. I know a lot of people, hate him and all this stuff, and that's just comes with the job. I think he does a good job overall, but I think he's getting this wrong. I think he's got to do something. I think we need to look at like full-time referees, getting guys that maybe have been in the NFL. They should have the best officiating in the country outside the NFL. No question. There's no question about it. And that's not what's happening. Okay, let's see if we got anything else. We got a lot of officiating things. Cam Little in the D1 this game, Marcus Elliott. I have to bring that up to Marcus Elliott. He was giving me a hard time because I was like, yeah, I kicked some in high school. More in junior high. I played both ways, so I didn't end up kicking much. We had a different guy. When I would kick also, like, I don't know what it was, but like the front of my leg, the front of my shin on the right side, whatever that muscle that called, it would like fatigue really quickly, like where I had trouble like working my foot. I don't know what it was, but if I kicked a lot, like in pregame, I'd notice like, man, the muscle just kind of feels fatigued. Chris Light says, so I think we're going to win 8 games this year. And then maybe a bowl game, but we lose a lot of people next year. So we're liable to get back to 6 or 7 wins. Wouldn't you agree, Trey? Right now on the surface, Chris, I think that there's absolutely a chance that they take a bit of a step back next year. And I hope people can understand that what this team was with having all these super seniors and stuff like that. And this is still a building process. But I think they'll continue to build forward, even if next year there might be a little bit of a step back. But they still got a lot coming back. I worry about the wide receiver position. I think there's some things to be encouraged about this team too with some young guys, but I worry about secondary, cornerback. There's some spots, but we'll see. Cody Hamlin says, I don't think people realize how big a win. I don't think people realize how big a win that was. LSU had nothing to lose. Their D, everything they had. Why is this jumping so bad? I guess swim towards the end. Yeah, all right. I'm going to work from the bottom. Mitch Williams says that was an ugly win, the kind of win we would have lost in the past. LSU. I don't think it was an ugly win. I think it was beautiful. I loved the game. I didn't ever feel good about it. Lance Walker says he played at Sheridan too. Go Jackets. Go Jackets. Jonathan Parker says, do you think Keytron has hit the freshman wall? What about Stevenson getting some game looks at wide receiver? Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that more and more. I don't know if Keytron's hit the freshman wall, but they just never gotten him going for some reason. They need him. They really need him. They need Isaiah Satania. They need Quincy McAdoo, sorry. But they need those guys, those freshman receivers. I mean, they need some help at wide receiver next year because Burks is almost certainly going to be gone. All right. Do I think KJ will stay with Arkansas after this year? It was just a redshirt sophomore, so I mean technically he could leave if he wanted to, but and go pro or transfer. Anybody can transfer any moment, but I don't think that's happening. I think KJ will be back next year. I guarantee it. How about that? All right, everybody, we're going to wrap it up. Went a little bit longer, but I went on a couple tangents there, so went a bit longer than I had planned to. But anyway, I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in and subscribe to HawgSports.com if you haven't done so. Again, if you like this show, if you want to support what we do, just know that we're not trying to make a bunch of money doing this YouTube show. I'm promoting the website. Go check out the website. You're going to like what you find there. You're going to love our Razors Edge community, the content that we produce, Curtis Wilkerson's insight and breakdowns on basketball, Danny West recruiting. I think you like what I do behind the scenes too on the VIP side of things. So go check us out there at HawgSports.com, HAWG Sports. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Throw us a thumbs up on YouTube. Follow on Facebook. All those good things. And we'll be back with you guys on Thursday for our primer. And Curtis Wilkerson, I don't know if he'll do Hog Hoops Live this week or maybe he does a stand-up after the basketball game on Wednesday, something like that. But we'll have something from Curtis this week, I would expect. So, all right, everybody. Appreciate you joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.